never imagined a casual scroll through Instagram would shatter my world. There was my son Jack, beaming in a tailored black tuxedo, his arm wrapped around a beautiful young woman in a wedding gown. Beside them stood her parents, everyone laughing. The caption gutted me. With the family that always supported me. 24 years of single fatherhood, erased in 9 words. The house Jack lives in is actually mine. A gift I never transferred to his name for tax reasons. After a sleepless night of tears and betrayal, I reached for my phone at dawn with shaking hands. My lawyer answered on the second ring. Life can change in an instant. Mine did twice. First, when my wife Sarah died from aggressive breast cancer, leaving me to raise our 7-year-old son alone. The second time was seeing that Instagram post. I still remember the confusion in Jack's blue eyes at Sarah's funeral. He kept asking when Mommy was coming home, and I had no good answers. Just a promise that I would always be there for him. And I was. Every Little League game, parent-teacher conference, and midnight fever. I learned to braid hair for Crazy Hair Day, bake cookies for school functions, and balance running my construction company with being both mom and dad. Those early years nearly broke me. Coming home from 12-hour workdays to help with homework, cook dinner, and tuck Jack into bed. But we found our rhythm. Weekends became sacred, filled with fishing trips to Lake Carson, building model airplanes, and teaching him to throw a perfect spiral in Franklin Park, the same park where Sarah and I had our first date, though I kept that detail to myself. Some memories were too precious to share, even with Jack. My construction business, Holloway Construction, grew despite the recession hitting just as Jack entered middle school. I specialized in commercial buildings, developing a reputation for delivering projects on time and under budget. That reputation allowed me to put money away for Jack's college fund and still maintain our comfortable 3-bedroom colonial in Westfield. Jack blossomed into a thoughtful, intelligent teenager. He joined the debate team, played center field on the baseball team, and maintained honor roll status. I never missed a debate or a game, even when it meant rescheduling important client meetings. My employees understood that Jack came first, always. When college acceptance letters arrived, we celebrated his full-ride scholarship to State University with steaks and root beer floats, Sarah's favorite dessert, a tradition we maintained for all major milestones. Jack majored in business with a minor in engineering, a perfect combination to eventually join Holloway Construction, or so I thought. Graduation day arrived before I knew it. Jack, tall and confident in his cap and gown, looked so much like Sarah, it made my chest ache. I had a surprise waiting for him. Not just the Rolex watch I presented at his graduation dinner, but the keys to a house. A modest 3-bedroom Craftsman just 10 minutes from my place. I had purchased it as an investment property 2 years earlier, renovated it with my own hands on weekends, and kept it ready for this moment. "Dad, this is too much," Jack said, eyes wide as we pulled into the driveway. "Consider it the rest of your college tuition that I didn't have to pay because of your scholarship," I told him. "I kept it in my name for tax purposes, but it's yours, son. Your start in life." He hugged me that day tighter than he had since he was a little boy. It felt like a new chapter for us both. Jack would start his job at a marketing firm, gain some outside experience, and eventually, I hoped, bring those skills back to Holloway Construction. 2 years after graduation, Jack brought home Melanie, pretty, petite, with an easy laugh and a master's degree in finance. I liked her immediately. She complimented my grilling techniques, asked thoughtful questions about the business, and brought out a lighter side of Jack I hadn't seen since Sarah died. "She's a keeper," I told Jack after their 3rd visit. He beamed with pride, and I felt certain I was looking at my future daughter-in-law. But over the next year, something shifted. Jack's visits became less frequent. When I called, he seemed distracted. He started mentioning the Andersons, Melanie's parents, with increasing frequency. Thomas Anderson's golf game, Patricia Anderson's charity fundraisers, weekend trips to their lake house. "You should come to dinner sometime," I suggested during one of his rare visits. "Meet the Andersons. They're pretty busy," Jack replied vaguely. "Maybe sometime." I tried not to feel hurt. After all, it was natural for him to bond with his girlfriend's family. But when 3 months passed without a single dinner at my house, I began to worry. Meanwhile, Holloway Construction faced challenges. A major project, a 6-story office building downtown, ran into unexpected foundation issues. Cost overruns ate into my profits, and the client was threatening legal action over delays. I didn't share these troubles with Jack, not wanting to burden him with my problems. Then came the sucker punch. Terry Long, my office manager of 15 years, the woman who organized my schedule and paid my bills when Sarah was sick, had been embezzling from the company. Small amounts at first, growing bolder over time. The forensic accountant estimated nearly $300,000 over 5 years. "We can press charges," Detective Miller told me, "but recovering the money will be difficult." She spent most of it. I sat in my office after hours, staring at Terry's empty desk, feeling like a fool. She had attended Sarah's funeral, brought casseroles to the house, watched Jack grow up, while stealing from me for years. That same night, scrolling mindlessly through social media seeking distraction, I noticed something odd. Jack appeared in countless photos with the Andersons, Thomas teaching him to sail, Patricia and Melanie and Jack at the symphony, the 3 of them at a Thanksgiving table I wasn't invited to. Comments from Thomas calling Jack the son we never had. My chest tightened as I examined Jack's social media presence more carefully. Photos of us together had become increasingly rare. The family he portrayed online wasn't the one I had sacrificed everything to provide. Betrayal comes in many forms. Terry's was financial. Jack's cut much deeper. "Your boy Jack sure looked handsome at his wedding," Barbara Peters said, watering her hydrangeas as I collected my mail. Melanie made a beautiful bride. I froze, keys dangling from my suddenly numb fingers. "I'm sorry. What did you say?" Barbara's smile faltered. "The wedding. Last Saturday? At Lakeview Country Club?" The world tilted sideways. Barbara kept talking, something about her niece being a +1 for another guest, but her words became white noise. I mumbled an excuse and stumbled back inside my house. "Wedding? My son got married without telling me?" With shaking hands, I opened Instagram, which I rarely checked. Jack's profile loaded, and there it was. A professional photo of my son in a black tuxedo, arm around a radiant Melanie in an elegant lace gown. Beside them stood an attractive couple in their early 60s, the man distinguished with silver hair, the woman slim and elegant. The Andersons, I presumed. They were standing on a lush green lawn with a lake in the background. Everyone looked blissfully happy. The caption hit me like a physical blow. "With the family that always supported me." I scrolled frantically, finding dozens more wedding photos posted by various guests. The elegant country club with flower-covered archways, a 6-tier cake, Jack and Melanie's first dance beneath crystal chandeliers, my son looking happier than I had ever seen him, and throughout it all, familiar faces. Jack's childhood friend Noah serving champagne to guests, my neighbor Fred Wilkins and his wife at a round table near the dance floor, Troy Mitchell, who Jack had known since kindergarten, giving a toast as best man. The same Troy who had struggled with alcohol in college, whom I had personally driven to rehab and visited every weekend for 3 months. All these people, these friends and neighbors, had watched my son get married, while I sat home alone, unaware, unwanted. I checked the dates on the photos. Last Saturday, 6 days ago, while I was working overtime to save my business after Terry's betrayal. My only child was getting married without me. I called Jack immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted, "Please call me. It's important." No response. Hours passed as I methodically went through every photo, every comment, trying to understand how this had happened. The wedding hadn't been spontaneous. The venue, the flowers, Melanie's custom gown, it all pointed to months of planning. Deliberate exclusion. I found older photos, going back through Jack and Melanie's profiles. 6 months earlier, Jack trying on tuxedos, Thomas Anderson beside him, both giving thumbs up to the camera. "Dad advice on wedding attire is the best." Read the caption. Dad. He called Thomas Anderson Dad. My hands trembled so badly I dropped my phone. The face looking back at me from those photos was familiar yet strange. my son's features arranged in expressions of joy I had rarely seen directed at me in recent years. Around midnight, I found photos from their honeymoon, a private bungalow in Bora Bora, which explained why my calls went unanswered. The kind of luxury honeymoon that cost more than Jack made in half a year. Clearly a gift from the Andersons. Thomas Anderson's face nagged at my memory. Where had I seen him before? I searched his name online and felt another wave of shock. Thomas Anderson, CEO of Anderson Development, a major real estate development company that had tried to buy out Holloway Construction 3 years earlier. I had declined their lowball offer, choosing to remain independent. Now Thomas Anderson was my son's father-in-law, a man who had once sat across from me in a business meeting, assessing the value of my life's work. Was it coincidence that his daughter had fallen in love with my son, or something more calculated? I poured a glass of bourbon, my first drink in months, and stared at the photos until sunrise. Each image twisted the knife deeper, but it was a photo buried in the comments that finally broke me. Jack and Troy and Thomas on a fishing boat, holding up an impressive trout, teaching these city boys how real men fish, Thomas had written. Those fishing trips had been our thing, Jack and me. Sacred time together ever since he was old enough to hold a rod, now replaced by outings with Thomas Anderson. My son hadn't just gotten married without me. He had replaced me entirely. Paul Grayson had been my attorney for 30 years. He had handled my divorce from my first wife before I met Sarah, drawn up my will after Jack was born, and guided me through the legal maze following Sarah's death. His office hadn't changed in all that time. Still the same leather chairs, law books, and family photos on his credenza. "You look terrible, Otto," he said as his secretary showed me in. "When did you last sleep? Does it matter?" I dropped into the chair across from his desk. "I need to know my legal options regarding Jack's house." Paul removed his reading glasses, his expression concerned. "What's happened?" I explained about the secret wedding, the Instagram post, the deliberate exclusion. Paul listened without interruption, taking occasional notes. When I finished, he sighed heavily. "I'm sorry, Otto, truly. But what exactly do you want to do about the house?" "I want to sell it." Paul's eyebrows shot up. "That's a dramatic step. Have you tried talking to Jack first? He's honeymooning in Bora Bora and won't answer my calls." My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. "The house is legally mine. I never transferred the title. I want to sell it." Paul opened a file drawer and extracted a folder. "Let me review the deed." He read silently for a few minutes. "Yes, the property is solely in your name. Jack has no legal claim to it. But Otto, this could permanently damage your relationship with your son." "What relationship?" Bitterness seeped into my words. "He got married without telling me. He's been systematically replacing me with Thomas Anderson for months, maybe years." Paul removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "I understand you're hurt, but revenge rarely brings satisfaction. It's not about revenge." But even as I said it, I knew that wasn't entirely true. "It's about consequences, about respect." "Is it worth losing your son over?" The question hung in the air between us. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. Jack's first steps, wobbling across our living room floor, teaching him to ride a bike in the park. His high school graduation, the pride that had nearly burst my chest. Missing an important client meeting to attend his debate championship. A decision that cost me a contract, but one I never regretted. But alongside those memories were newer ones. The gradual distance growing between us. The increasing mentions of the Andersons. The smile in those wedding photos that I had rarely seen directed at me in recent years. "There's something else you should know," Paul said, interrupting my thoughts. He looked uncomfortable. "Jack and Thomas Anderson came to see me about 3 weeks ago." I straightened. "What? Why?" "They wanted to know about the legal status of the house. Specifically, if Jack had any claim to it based on verbal promises or the length of his occupancy." The betrayal cut even deeper. "What did you tell them?" "That I couldn't discuss the matter with them as I represent you. I referred them to another attorney." Paul's expression was grave. "Otto, it appears they were preparing to challenge your ownership." My mind raced. Jack and Thomas Anderson had been planning to take the house from me legally, while planning a wedding I wasn't invited to. "How long would it take to sell the house?" I asked. In the current market, with a property in that neighborhood, we could have multiple offers within days. Paul hesitated. But I strongly advise against making such a permanent decision while you're in this emotional state. I've made up my mind. My voice hardened. Listed immediately. Paul studied me for a long moment. The law is on your side, Otto. But are you sure this is the hill you want to die on? Family is precious. Family doesn't exclude family from weddings, I said quietly. Family doesn't replace fathers with newer, wealthier models. Paul nodded slowly and reached for his phone. I'll contact Linda in our real estate division. She'll get the listing process started today. As I stood to leave, Paul said, Otto, if you change your mind, just call. We can stop this process any time before closing. I nodded but knew I wouldn't call. The image of Jack and the Andersons, captioned, with the family that always supported me, was burned into my brain. It was time my son learned that actions have consequences. 6 days after listing the house, my phone rang at 7:30 in the morning. Jack's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered, What the hell are you doing? Jack's voice crackled with fury. Why is there a for sale sign in front of my house? Hello to you too, Jack. Congratulations on your wedding. I kept my voice calm despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. A pause. How did you find out? Barbara Peters saw the photos. Apparently her niece was someone's +1. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Everyone was invited except me, it seems. That's not fair, Dad. Not fair? You got married without telling me. Your own father. My composure cracked. I had to find out from a neighbor, then confirm it on Instagram, with that caption about the family that always supported you. It wasn't meant like that, Jack said, though his tone lacked conviction. Then how was it meant? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you replaced me with Thomas Anderson. Jack's voice hardened. This is exactly why we didn't invite you. Everything has to be on your terms. You've been controlling my entire life with your money, your connections, your expectations. Controlling you? I bought you a house, Jack. The injustice of his accusation fueled my anger. I put you through college without debt. I supported every decision you ever made. As long as those decisions fit into your plan for me, Jack shot back. Join the family business, marry the right girl, live 10 minutes away so you can check on me whenever you want. I never said any of that. You didn't have to. It was always implied. The house was just another way to keep me under your thumb. I gripped the phone tighter. If that's how you see my help, then I'm doing you a favor by selling it. You'll be free from my control. This is childish, Dad. You're having a tantrum because you didn't get your way. My way? I nearly shouted. I didn't get to see my only son get married. I didn't get to stand beside you on the most important day of your life. Because you never approved of Melanie. Jack's voice rose to match mine. You always looked down on her family. That's not true. And it wasn't. I had genuinely liked Melanie. I welcomed her into our home. I thought she was perfect for you. Until she wasn't steering me toward Holloway Construction. Until her father offered me a job at Anderson Development. So that was it. Jack had gone to work for Thomas Anderson. You never even told me you had a job offer, I said quietly. Because I knew how you'd react. Everything's a betrayal with you, Dad. Mom died and left you. Terry stole from you. And now I'm abandoning you too, right? That's how you see it. The accuracy of his assessment struck me like a physical blow. But there was more to his words, something in his tone. Have you been talking to Thomas about my business? About Terry? Jack's slight hesitation told me everything. Thomas mentioned it. Said it was a shame what happened. And what else did Thomas say about me? My suspicion grew. That I'm controlling, desperate to keep you in my life, unwilling to let go. Another pause. He understands family dynamics. Both his parents were controlling too. I see. The pieces were falling into place. And did Thomas suggest challenging my ownership of the house? Was that his idea or yours? Jack's sharp intake of breath confirmed my suspicion. We were just exploring options. You always said the house was mine. While keeping it in your name for tax purposes, I quoted my own words back to him. Did Thomas explain what that meant? Or did he just focus on ways to take it from me legally? You're twisting everything, Jack said, but with less conviction. Thomas has been nothing but supportive. His family welcomed me without conditions, and in return, you shut me out of your wedding. The hurt resurged, fresh and raw. Do you have any idea what that did to me? It wasn't personal, Dad. Jack's voice softened slightly. Melanie and I wanted a small wedding. Just close family. I am your close family. My voice broke. I'm your father. I raised you alone for 20 years. And Thomas has been more of a father to me in 2 years than you have in 10. Jack shouted. He listens instead of directing. He supports instead of controlling. The words cut deeper than any knife. I see. I struggled to keep my voice steady. Well, there's something else you should know, since we're being honest. Melanie is pregnant. I nearly dropped the phone. What? You're going to be a father? In 7 months. There was a note of pride in Jack's voice. Thomas and Patricia are thrilled to be grandparents. The implication was clear. Thomas and Patricia would be grandparents, not me. So, you weren't planning to tell me about that either? I asked quietly. Jack's voice turned cold again. That depends on whether you sell my house out from under me and my pregnant wife. Your house? Anger flared again. The house I bought? The house in my name that you and Thomas were planning to take from me legally? We weren't planning to take anything. We were exploring options because you've held it over my head for years. I never once mentioned the house after giving it to you, I said. Not once. You didn't have to. It was always there. Your generosity, your sacrifice, everything you did for me that I could never repay. I never asked for repayment, I said softly. Just inclusion in your life. Just a seat at your wedding. Well, it's too late for that now, isn't it? Jack's voice was bitter. Go ahead and sell the house. Prove me right about you. Jack, please, can we talk about this rationally? Meet somewhere? I have nothing more to say to you. His voice was ice. If you sell this house, you're dead to me. You'll never meet your grandchild. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I tried calling back immediately, but my call went straight to voicemail. A text message failed to deliver. He had blocked my number. I sat in my kitchen, phone in hand, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My son was married. My son was going to be a father, and he wanted nothing to do with me. 3 days after my confrontation with Jack, I drove to his house. Their house. Soon to be someone else's house, if I went through with the sale. I knew from social media that Jack and Melanie were still in Bora Bora, not due back for another week. I had a key, never used until now. I told myself I was there to retrieve family photos and heirlooms before the sale. Things that belonged to our family history. To Sarah. Items Jack might not even value, but that held meaning for me. The house looked different than when Jack had moved in. Melanie's touch was evident in the new furniture, the coordinated throw pillows, the framed architectural prints. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, feeling both familiar with and estranged from the space. In Jack's home office, I collected photos of Sarah from the bookshelf, Jack as a baby in her arms. The 3 of us at the beach the summer before her diagnosis. I had duplicates at home, but these frames had been gifts from me to Jack. They belonged with him, regardless of our current conflict. The pull to the attic was almost unconscious. I climbed the folding stairs, switched on the single bulb, and scanned the dusty space. Boxes of Christmas decorations, college textbooks, and in the corner, a wooden chest I recognized as one that had been in Jack's childhood bedroom. I opened it, expecting to find old toys or sports equipment. Instead, it contained carefully preserved mementos of our relationship. Construction paper Father's Day cards from elementary school, the MVP trophy from his Little League championship, when I had coached the team, a fishing lure we had made together, photographs from camping trips, baseball games, school events, all featuring the 2 of us. At the bottom of the chest lay a folder containing what appeared to be a college essay. The title page read, "The Person Who Changed My Life. My Father, Otto Holloway." I sank to the dusty attic floor and began to read. When I was 7 years old, my mother died of cancer, leaving my father to raise me alone. Many men would have crumbled under the pressure of single parenthood while running their own business. Not my father. He transformed himself into both mother and father overnight, learning to cook, help with homework, and braid hair for crazy hair day, all while growing his construction company. He never missed a school event, a baseball game, or a parent-teacher conference. But more importantly, he never let me see how much he was struggling. Only years later did I learn he often worked until 2 in the morning after I went to bed, just to keep up with his business responsibilities while being a full-time dad. My father taught me that real strength isn't about physical power or financial success. It's about showing up every single day for the people who depend on you. It's about keeping promises, especially when keeping them is difficult. My father promised my mother he would give me a good life, and he has sacrificed everything to keep that promise. When people ask me who my hero is, I don't name a celebrity or athlete. I name Otto Holloway, the man who shaped me into the person I am today through his example of integrity, perseverance, and unconditional love. Tears streamed down my face as I read those words, written just 4 years earlier. What had happened since then? How had we gone from this to with the family that always supported me? I carefully returned the essay to the chest, my mind spinning. The Jack who wrote that essay and the Jack who had excluded me from his wedding seemed like 2 different people. Before leaving the attic, I noticed a cardboard file box labeled Work Docs pushed against the wall. Normally, I would have respected Jack's privacy, but something nagged at me. Jack's sudden job with Thomas Anderson, their inquiries about the house's legal status, the complete personality change in my son. I opened the box. Most contents were innocent: pay stubs, health insurance forms, but at the bottom lay a folder labeled TA Correspondence. Inside were printed emails between Jack and Thomas Anderson dating back 18 months, long before Jack and Melanie were engaged. The earliest were professional, Thomas offering Jack career advice, but they quickly grew more personal, with Thomas inviting Jack to family events and golf outings. What caught my attention were the more recent emails, particularly ones referring to me and my business. From Thomas to Jack, dated 8 months ago. Spoke with a contractor who worked with your father last year. Says Otto cut corners on materials to save costs. Might explain those foundation issues on the West Side project. Not surprised, given what you've told me about his financial troubles. I had never cut corners on materials. Ever. The foundation issues on the West Side project stemmed from faulty engineering plans provided by the client's architect, which we had documented extensively. Another email, from 6 months ago. Sources tell me Otto underpaid subcontractors on the hospital addition, some considering legal action. Glad you're distancing yourself from Holloway Construction before it affects your reputation. Again, completely false. We had paid every subcontractor according to contract, with bonuses for early completion. The most disturbing email was from just before the wedding. Otto's company is a sinking ship. My offer still stands to buy him out before bankruptcy forces his hand. With you inside the company now, we can make the transition seamless. We'll take care of the old man, but it's time for him to retire. The house situation is the first step. Patricia and I can't wait to welcome you officially to the family this weekend. You made the right choice, son. I sat back, stunned. Thomas Anderson had been systematically turning my son against me, feeding him lies about my business practices, all while positioning himself as a father figure and potential business savior. It was a calculated campaign to isolate Jack from me and gain access to my company through my son. And Jack had believed him, chosen him, excluded me from his wedding based on these lies. I carefully replaced everything as I had found it, locked up the house, and drove home in a daze. The betrayal had suddenly shifted shape. Jack wasn't just being ungrateful or rebellious. He had been deliberately turned against me by a man with ulterior motives. The question now was what to do about it. The business card had been in my wallet for years. Frank Williams, private investigator, a retired detective who had helped me vet potential business partners in the past. I called him that evening. Otto Holloway. Been a while. Frank's gravelly voice brought back memories of late-night stakeouts and detailed reports. What can I do for you? I need information on Thomas Anderson, Anderson Development. Everything you can find. Business or personal? Frank asked. Ever professional? Both, I answered. I think he's trying to take my company, and he's turned my son against me in the process. Frank whistled low. That's complicated. Give me a few days. While Frank began his investigation, I reached out to industry contacts, old friends who might have information about Anderson Development. John Martinez, my former foreman who now ran his own construction company. Diane Webster, at the city planning office. Robert Green, who had been my banker for 20 years before retiring. Thomas Anderson? Robert said when I called. Careful there, Otto. Guy's got a reputation. What kind of reputation? On the surface, very successful. Big projects, political connections. But there are rumors. Leverage to the hilt. Some of his developments have had serious quality issues that got covered up. Nothing proven, mind you. Robert paused. Why are you asking? I explained about Jack, the wedding, and my suspicions about Thomas's influence. Sounds like classic Thomas, Robert said. He's known for making acquisitions through personal connections. Befriended the Wilson boys before buying their father's plumbing supply business for pennies on the dollar. Did something similar with Hayward Electric. And now he's using my son to get to me? It fits his pattern, Robert agreed. Word is Anderson Development is in trouble. They overextended on that resort project in the mountains. Banks are getting nervous. A solid company like yours would make a good cover for some creative accounting. 3 days later, Frank Williams called with his preliminary findings. You sitting down, Otto? He asked. That bad? Depends on your perspective. Thomas Anderson is under federal investigation for wire fraud, tax evasion, and a list of other financial crimes. Indictments could come any day. My mind raced to Jack, to Melanie. Does this involve Anderson Development? It's the center of it. They've been using a shell company structure to hide losses and divert investor funds. The mountain resort project was the tipping point. They sold the same units to multiple investors. Jesus. I thought of Thomas's apparent wealth. The expensive wedding, the Bora Bora honeymoon. Are they broke? Not yet, but heading there fast. The Andersons are living on borrowed time and money. My sources say they're desperate for legitimate business assets to shore up their position before the feds move in. Like my construction company, I said slowly, and my son is right in the middle of it. Afraid so. Your boy's working directly under Thomas now, right? He could be in legal jeopardy too if he's involved in any financial decisions. My stomach dropped. He just started, and he has no idea what he's walking into. You need to warn him, Otto. Whatever's happened between you, he needs to know. I thanked Frank and hung up, my mind churning. Jack wouldn't believe me if I simply told him Thomas was under investigation. He'd see it as another attempt to control him, to separate him from the Andersons. I needed proof, and I needed a strategy. Over the next 2 days, I compiled everything I had learned. Frank provided documentation of troubled Anderson Development projects, including structural issues that had been covered up with bribes to inspectors. Robert connected me with former Anderson employees who confirmed the company's financial troubles and Thomas's pattern of using personal relationships for business advantage. I also prepared materials about my own company, proving we had never cut corners or underpaid subcontractors as Thomas had claimed. Contracts, payment records, inspection reports, all documenting Holloway Construction's ethical practices. But how to get Jack to see all this? He had blocked my number, refused all contact. I needed a neutral intermediary, someone Jack trusted who wasn't under Thomas's influence. The solution came unexpectedly. Troy Mitchell, Jack's best man, called me out of the blue. Mr. Holloway? It's Troy. I heard about what happened with the wedding. That was messed up, sir. I wanted you to know I thought you should have been there. Troy, the boy I had driven to rehab, who I had visited every weekend for 3 months, when his own parents had given up on him. Thank you, Troy, I said, emotion thick in my throat. That means a lot. Jack's not himself lately, sir. Ever since he got tight with Melanie's dad. He's changed. I've noticed, I said cautiously. Some of us have been worried. He's working crazy hours at Anderson Development, constantly stressed. Melanie's great, but her parents are intense, especially her dad. Troy, I said carefully, I need to talk to Jack. It's important. Would you be willing to help make that happen? Troy didn't hesitate. Absolutely, Mr. Holloway. Jack might be mad at me, but you saved my life. I owe you everything. We formed a plan. Troy would invite Jack to coffee, ostensibly to catch up after the honeymoon. I would arrive after they were seated. Jack wouldn't make a scene in public. It wasn't perfect, but it was the best chance I had to reach my son before it was too late. The coffee shop Troy chose was neutral territory, a place downtown neither Jack nor I frequented. I arrived 15 minutes after their scheduled meeting time, giving Troy a chance to get Jack settled. Through the window, I could see them at a corner table, Jack gesturing animatedly as Troy nodded. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pushed open the door. Jack spotted me immediately, his expression shifting from surprise to anger. He started to stand. "Please," I said, reaching their table. "Just 5 minutes. Then I'll go if you want." Troy nodded, encouragingly. "Hear him out, man." Jack glared at Troy. "You set me up. For a good reason," Troy said firmly. 5 minutes won't kill you." Jack reluctantly sat back down. 5 minutes. That's it. Troy stood. "I'll give you guys some privacy." As Troy moved to a distant table, I took his vacated seat across from Jack. My son wouldn't meet my eyes, staring instead at his coffee cup. "The house is still yours," I said without preamble. "I took it off the market yesterday." Jack looked up, suspicious. Why? Because I was wrong to react that way. The admission wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I was hurt, Jack. Deeply hurt. But I shouldn't have threatened your home. "So this is you apologizing?" His tone remained guarded. "Partly. I placed a thin folder on the table. But it's also me trying to protect you." "From what?" Skepticism dripped from his words. "From Thomas Anderson." I pushed the folder toward him. "Everything in here is documented and verifiable. I'm not asking you to believe me without evidence." Jack didn't touch the folder. "More attempts to control me? To separate me from Melanie's family?" "This isn't about control, Jack. It's about the truth." I kept my voice low, calm. "Thomas Anderson is under federal investigation for fraud. Anderson Development is a house of cards about to collapse. And you're working there, potentially exposed to legal jeopardy." Jack laughed without humor. "Right. Thomas warned me you might try something like this. Said you were desperate to get me back into your business. Check the sources yourself," I said, tapping the folder. "Call the names listed. Verify everything. I'm not making this up, Jack." Something in my tone must have reached him. Jack hesitantly opened the folder, scanning the contents. His expression shifted from dismissal to confusion, then concern. "These could be faked," he said, but with less conviction. "They're not. Call the Wall Street Journal reporter who's investigating Anderson Development. Her number's in there. Or the FBI agent who's leading the case. Speak to the former Anderson employees who've already given statements to federal prosecutors." Jack continued reading, his face paling. "This says Thomas bribed building inspectors to overlook structural issues in the Lakeside Condos project." "Yes. The same project he claims I cut corners on, when in reality, Holloway Construction refused to bid on it because the design specs were unsafe." Jack's expression darkened. "He told me you underbid that project to cut costs, knowing it would have problems later. I never bid on it at all. The documentation's in there." For nearly 20 minutes, Jack read through the materials silently. Occasionally, he'd pull out his phone, presumably to verify information. With each page, his posture changed, shoulders slumping as the truth sank in. Finally, he looked up, eyes troubled. "Why would he do this? Why target me, target you? He needs Holloway Construction, a legitimate, respected company to absorb into Anderson Development before the federal investigation goes public. And you were his way in." Jack ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of his childhood that it made my chest ache. "He's been grooming me all this time." "I believe so, yes. The things he said about you, about your business practices." Jack trailed off, looking lost. "I believed him. I trusted him. He was very convincing," I said gently. "And I wasn't exactly disproving his claims by threatening to sell your house." A ghost of a smile touched Jack's lips. "Not your finest moment, Dad." "No, it wasn't." I leaned forward. "I reacted badly. I was hurt that you excluded me from your wedding, but I should have talked to you instead of lashing out." Jack was quiet for a long moment. I should have invited you to the wedding. That was wrong of me. Why didn't you, Jack? Really? He sighed deeply. It started small. Thomas making comments about how you were holding me back, how the house was a way to keep me dependent. Then suggestions that you were desperate to keep me in your business, that you'd try to come between me and Melanie. And you believed him. He was persuasive, and Jack hesitated. There was truth mixed with the lies. You did want me to join Holloway Construction. You were disappointed when I chose marketing instead. I admitted. But I respected your choice. I never tried to force you. No, you didn't. Jack looked thoughtful. But Thomas convinced me you would have eventually. That everything you did for me came with invisible strings. There were never any strings, Jack. Everything I did because I love you. Jack nodded slowly. I know that now. Or I'm remembering it, I guess. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of misunderstanding between us beginning to lift. What happens now? Jack finally asked. That's up to you. But if I were you, I'd distance myself from Anderson Development immediately. Get legal advice about your position there. And Melanie? Worry clouded his features. She has no idea about any of this. Have you noticed any signs she might be suspicious about her father? Jack considered this. She's been upset lately. Her parents have been pressuring us to move in with them, to sell the house you gave us. She didn't understand why, and she was uncomfortable with how they took over our wedding planning. Maybe she's starting to see through them too. I need to talk to her, Jack said firmly. Show her all this. She deserves to know, especially with the baby coming. I nodded, then hesitated. About that. Congratulations, Jack. Being a father, it's the greatest joy I've ever known. Jack's eyes softened. I'm sorry you found out that way. We were going to tell our families after the honeymoon. A pause. Both families. I'm grateful to know now. I summoned my courage, and I hope I'll get to know my grandchild. Jack nodded slowly. You will. I was angry when I said otherwise. He gathered the papers back into the folder. I need time to process all this, to talk to Melanie, figure out our next steps. Of course. I stood, ready to honor my promise to leave after saying my piece. Dad, Jack's voice stopped me. Can we meet again tomorrow? Maybe at your house? With Melanie? She should hear all this from you too. Relief flooded through me. Yes, anytime. And about the house. Jack looked uncomfortable. I don't think we should stay there. Not after everything. It would always remind us of this mess. I understand. We can sell it if you want. Put the money toward a new place. Or whatever you decide. Jack nodded, then surprised me by standing and offering his hand. I took it, then pulled him into a hug. After a moment's hesitation, he returned the embrace. I'm sorry, Dad, he whispered. Me too, son. Me too. The next evening, Jack and Melanie sat in my living room, the folder of evidence on the coffee table between us. Melanie had been quiet as I explained everything, her hand protectively over her still flat stomach. I suspected something wasn't right, she finally said. Dad's been acting strange. Secretive phone calls, tense conversations with Mom. He's been pushing Jack to take on more responsibility at the company much too quickly. Have you verified any of this? She asked, gesturing to the folder. I called the Wall Street Journal reporter this morning, Jack answered. And that former Anderson employee, Steve Watson. It's all true, Mel. Tears welled in her eyes. What do we do now? I cleared my throat. I have a suggestion, if you're open to it. They both looked at me expectantly. I bought you a new house, I said. Well, I put a deposit down. It's in Brighton Hills, that neighborhood you always liked, Melanie. 3 bedrooms, good schools nearby. It would be in both your names from the start. No strings, no tax complications, just a fresh start. Dad, you can't just, Jack began. I can, and I did, I interrupted gently. Consider it a proper wedding present. One I should have been there to give you in person. Melanie wiped her eyes. That's incredibly generous, Otto. There's more, I continued. Jack, I know Anderson Development isn't a safe place for you now. If you want, there's a position at Holloway Construction, marketing director. We need someone with your skills, but it's completely your choice. No pressure, no expectations. Jack exchanged a look with Melanie. We need to think about it. About all of it. Of course, I agreed. Take all the time you need. There's one more thing, Jack said, reaching for Melanie's hand. We'd like to have a small ceremony, just immediate family, to renew our vows. He met my eyes. With all our family present this time, the lump in my throat made it hard to speak. I'd be honored, and, Melanie added softly, we'd like you to be the first to see this. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small black and white image, passing it to me. An ultrasound picture. My grandchild. A tiny bean-shaped miracle. 10 weeks, Melanie said, smiling through tears. Due in early May. I couldn't speak, could only nod as I gently touched the image with trembling fingers. 3 weeks later, we stood in my backyard, Jack and Melanie, under a simple floral arch, exchanging vows again. Melanie's sister as her maid of honor, Troy as Jack's best man, and me, proudly standing beside my son. The house in Brighton Hills was theirs, the deed signed over completely. Jack had accepted the position at Holloway Construction, bringing fresh ideas and energy to our marketing strategy. And Thomas Anderson had been indicted on 27 counts of fraud, his company assets frozen. After the simple ceremony, Jack pulled me aside, pressing an envelope into my hands. What's this? I asked. The keys to your house, he said. The original one you gave me. We've moved everything out. It's yours again. I pushed the envelope back toward him. Keep it. Sell it. It's still yours, Jack. He shook his head. No, I have something better in mind. Sign it over to Holloway Construction. We can renovate it as a model home, show potential clients our work. I considered this. That's actually a great idea. I have those occasionally. Jack grinned, then grew serious. Dad, I need to say something. Thank you, not just for the new house or the job, but for fighting for us, for not giving up on me even when I gave up on you. I could never give up on you, Jack. You're my son. Later, as we shared a meal in my dining room, I looked around at this small gathering. Jack and Melanie, heads together, laughing. Troy raising a toast to the happy couple. The ultrasound picture in a frame on my mantel. Family. Not perfect, not without its struggles and misunderstandings, but real. The kind that makes mistakes, faces hard truths, and finds its way back to each other. I thought of that Instagram caption that had cut so deeply, with the family that always supported me. It had a different meaning now, because sometimes supporting someone means fighting for them, even when they've pushed you away. Sometimes love means holding on when it would be easier to let go. As Jack caught my eye across the table and raised his glass in a silent toast, I knew that the bond between us, tested and strained but ultimately unbroken, would be the legacy I passed to my grandchild. Not houses or businesses or material wealth, but the knowledge that true family never gives up on each other. Have you ever had to fight to keep someone in your life who was determined to push you away? Or have you ever realized too late that someone was manipulating your relationships for their own gain? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share with someone who might need to hear that family relationships are worth fighting for, even when they're difficult. Thank you for listening, and may you always find the strength to protect the relationships that matter most.